What's up, guys? Shipwright Accessories, Shipwright Essentials. My name is Logan. I'm here with a joint. It's full of real weed. Now, this is real weed, unlike the other stuff that we were discovering in its archanine past and present and future hoodies. Weed does this calling thing. Where it slows down and gets faster. Okay? So, what we analyze when we see the bends in between these two different things is there's a message being sent here from the smoke and from the things that are incarcerated in lark. Now, in lark logic and in lark are very different. In the interest of being the ugliest person I could possibly be, trying to hit this joint, there's another acceptable bend, which is down, over, under, down, back, under. Now, it's a different kind of logic when it comes to us from a place that's far from here. So when we hear a pattern, and then we analyze the pattern, and we lay it back out, and what we see is that there's a calling from a certain place. So tobacco, which comes from a field, which comes from several different places, that fights us when we're trying to put it in a cigarette, and it's like, no, and then it pulls out a sword, and then we have to use the sword against it to like skewer it back down into the place where we want it, and that justifies a kill, and a kill justifies something else, which is like a quarter turn of the staff, or the scepter, the gold scepter of youth, perhaps. And then we use that quarter turn to go into certain slow motion bends and things that we can go up and out with, like the smoke. It's supposed to go up and out, back down into the hit that we just took into our mouths. Now, this is why medical marijuana and the marijuana industry are so different and susceptible to these types of things happening, especially with things on the market that are the legal equivalent of marijuana, being more archanine than we know. Now, there's something calling out from this. It's calling, and it's not happy that it has to be there. And where it's calling from is someplace called the Isle of Man. Now, the Isle of Man is where everything has a living personality, or something that's alive inside of itself. And that's where we learn about these things at first on college radio talk shows, and then again on Facebook, and then again on several other portals of communication. Now, what we have is the most beautiful arrangement of these things set up right now for us to do another snare DNA test. Now, that's to say that this is not happy to be where it's at. And that's because it's calling to us from the Isle of Man. And what we have is a tariff program, which is set up on a tariff, much like a cigarette, so that we can use it to recall these things as a standard. Now, what's not on the pack of cigarettes anymore is a tariff, which appears down here. Now, a pack of authentic blend 27s with no tariff program are just as equal to or deadly as a pen that's still in the wrapping. Now, a pen, which would be making the appeal to be something that represents a line, and a line that you can follow through the world. And now, that's a line that's going to stop time. Okay, so when you have a tariff program representing snare DNA and two different types of Art Deco DNA being dead but alive, and then weed, which is dead from a different side of the mind and not alive as it is, harnessing all the DNA from here, okay, which has made a quarter turn 90 degrees to look directly at you in a surly fashion. Okay, so here and here, to here and here, being not an extension of the mind, but a realistic bend of how we actually spend our time explaining these things to ourselves when we think about ourselves. Now, there's nothing I want more than to throw all of these things away and just be done with it. But I'm not going to, because I realize that real weed has the ability to call from someplace farther than spice does. Now, spice being marshmallow leaf saturated in synthetic THC, it brings it back to life. And so when you have a call coming to you from the Isle of Man, and you have these things that are unhappy to be burned alive, and now you're put on trial from a very small perspective. Now, to be sitting here in like cryogenically frozen wormwood and completely frozen, sort of floating down the icy road, is a lot different than to sit here thawed out, which is what we are, thawed out, thoroughly thought out, and thought about, maybe these things somebody needs help. And there's all of this DNA that you can see behind us in the portal, in the previous videos, which is giving us some sort of a thought that we need to have. Someone needs help in there. So from a micro worker's perspective, can we get down to a very small size and make people mad? Can we get down to a very small size and find our way through the tariff program back to the Isle of Man? Well, I think that we can. And that's where we're going next, is to the Isle of Man, to see if we can actually make contact with these things that exist there, and see if we can actually film snare activity from a snare level, and see if there's something calling out to us from the snare realm, trying to keep us away from hair, because hair represents a line that's not there anymore. It's a real line, and snare DNA being a real line that we're trying to find. Okay, so Shipwright Accessories, Shipwright Essentials. My name is Logan, and we'll see you there.